Welcome to a very special edition of This Week in Missouri Politics for all of our viewers on our web and social media channels. This is going to be one of our very special retrospectives on some of the careers that have really shaped Missouri and Missouri politics. We started these with Governor Nixon, talking about his career, had a lot of fun. Ron Richard, Judge Russell, Roy Blunt, Matt Blunt, in the same vein of people that have been so influential in Missouri politics. We're here with the former president of UFCW 655, Dave Cook. Thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thanks for having me. I can't believe you called and asked, have me join you on something like this. Honored.
Well, I tell you what, I think the labor movement is one of the most important things and most influential, and really the tip of the spear for actually when we start talking about the state and its politics. And there's been no one more influential in the labor movement, especially as the labor movement's evolved and changed. No one has had a more influential seat for that than you. And I want to thank you for giving us some time to talk about your career and your life and how that has really affected everyone in Missouri's life.
Thanks. Humbled again, Scott. I mean, I don't know how I got to where I am. We'll talk a little bit about that. But I am honored to be here. I'm honored to be talked about in such high regard. I always took my role at a very high level and thought it was a very important role.
So let's just start from the beginning. Tell folks where you're from.
So grew up in Baldwin, Missouri. Everybody thinks about Baldwin now, and it's 5 lanes in Manchester Road. Let me tell you, Baldwin Road was 2 lanes. I had friends that lived on Manchester Road, so it was just a little bitty 2-lane road out there. It was the true country when I grew up there, and then went into Webster and eventually migrated out to the great county of Jeff County.
I'm going to ask you the St. Louis question.
Yep.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to high school at Webster, despised it, hated it. I moved there as a freshman halfway through, so had no friends, and Webster is a very cliquey place back then. I'm sure it still is. So,
I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's a Webster kind of motto. So didn't care for Webster that much. The school, let me say that, loved the community.
So tell me about your family.
Grew up in a working class family. My dad was a butcher, worked for Kroger. My mom worked as a checker, a lot of stay at home. Grew up on the Mississippi River. I was a river rat. We went out every weekend on the boat that Dad built or glued together, and water skied on the Mississippi, swam in the Mississippi. Is a great childhood. My dad got me a job at Kroger. Back in the day when I started, you had to know somebody to get a job at the grocery store. They were good jobs. He made me swear to one thing, or 2 things I should say. First one, automatic for people like us. Don't embarrass my name.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? The second one was, you can't make a career of this. And this is back in 77. He said, you can't make a career of this because this industry isn't going to be what it is today by the time you retire.
He had the foresight to see that, did he?
Yeah, he did, because it's a changed industry.
Yeah.
It's a de-skilled industry. It was more of a skilled industry back then. You think about the butchers back then, they were getting half sides in. They were breaking everything down to the back room. And today they cut a piece of plastic open, they run it through a bandsaw, and that's sliced meat.
Yeah.
So
you started to work right out of high school at Kroger?
I started when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And
which store?
I started at Kroger in Maplewood, right across the street from Cousin Hugo's, for anybody that connotates to bars. I have a tendency to do that. Yep. So it's right across from Cousin Hugo's.
Now, how long did you do that job?
I worked in the grocery stores for about 5 years. No, it's 9 years total. Kroger sold, I went to National, and then got an opportunity to work for the union.
So tell me how that works. So you go from working in the store in Maplewood. How does one, I guess in the early 1980s, how do you go from working in the store to working with the union?
Well, Scott, you know me very well, and I'm kind of an outspoken person from time to time.
I think that's fair.
I think that's probably true. I didn't think the union was doing what it's supposed to be doing. It wasn't representing the people. They had gotten a little bit lazy, in my opinion, and I was kind of boisterous about that. Stood up at a meeting, and my brother, God love him, he was always smarter than me. He couldn't speak like me, but he was smarter than me. We'd go to a contract meeting, he'd say, Dave, this isn't right, that's not right. I'd go to the microphone and ask the question. So I got to be known by the union. I don't know in a good way or a bad way. But they finally decided they were going to start hiring some people, and I had put my name on the ballot to run against them, actually. And as a very young man, they came out and said, what do you want? I said, I want the union to do what it's supposed to do. Represent us, take care of us. And they said, well, here's the commitment. If you stay on the ballot and you don't win, you're never going to have a job with the local. You take your name off the ballot, so we don't have to go through an election, and we'll consider you to hire you on staff, and you can show us what you have. So I thought about it, and I kicked it around. And I thought, well, I think I can win, but I know if I get a job down there, I can do a good job down there.
Yeah.
So I took my name off the ballot. They were going to hire 4 people. 172 people, I think it was, applied for 4 positions. They called me and said, we've got good news and bad news. We're hiring 6. That's the good news. The other good news is you're number 7. I said, well, my math isn't the best in the world, right?
How's that good news?
Yeah. I said, so I don't have a job? And they said, no, that's right. And I said, well, here's the deal. I took my name off the ballot the last time. I will be running the next election. I will not take my name off the ballot. They called me 8 months later, and one person didn't work out. Another one went on loan to another union. They said, we have a temporary job for you. I said, okay, what's temporary? Well, it's 6 months. And I said, okay.
You say who? Who was that? Who?
It was actually Bill Campy. He was the number 2 guy in charge down there. He took over after that. He despised me, but he did. We mended fences towards the end, and he is a very admirable person. But I actually remember going into his office on a Monday because I talked to my wife at that time and said, I don't think I can take this job. I'm going to be on the road, literally package bags on a Monday, leave and don't come home to the following Friday, indefinitely for 6 months, home every other weekend for 2 days. I can't do that knowing that I'm not going to have a job after 6 months. So I went in. At that time, I was working for National.
So if you don't mind my asking,
Sure.
When you take a job like that, you had to leave your job at Kroger, right?
At that time, it was National. Kroger had sold, and I went to work for National.
Okay, but so I'm from Poplar Bluff, so we still had a Kroger. We still have a Kroger to this day.
Yeah, I know.
But you leave your job at the store you're working at. Is that job saved for you?
Yes, it is. We have a union.
So at least you had a way to come back. I got you.
And quite honestly, if Kroger was still in town, I probably wouldn't have taken it. Because when I went to work for National, I went from $12 an hour to $6.50 an hour.
How does that work?
Different seniorities. In the grocery industry, it's not like the building trades and some constructions. You don't take your seniority with you. You start with your company. So I went from being a produce manager making $12 an hour, not bad money back then.
Seems like the kind of thing a union would not take kindly to.
They wouldn't. And let me say, we have corrected that in future sales.
Yeah.
When shopping.
Well, it just doesn't seem fair, right?
Yeah.
So not just for you personally, but for anybody.
For anybody. Yeah. So we've done a better job. But if I was still making $12 an hour, I would have taken a pay cut to go to work for the union. Whereas it was, I was going to get back to work close to what I was making. But I hated working at National so bad because, it was a different company than Kroger. I knew Kroger. I went in on a Monday morning. I'll never forget. And I told the produce manager, said, so you decide what you're going to do? I said, I'm not going to take it. And I love this guy, but I hated working for him. After 2 hours that morning, Scott, it's like, I can't do this. So I picked up the phone. I called the union hall. Said, it's Bill Campion. I said, you have time for a meeting? He said, yes. Told my produce manager, I'm leaving. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to the union hall. He said, I thought you made your decision already. I said, working with you for 2 hours today, talk me into reconsidering it. So
let me ask you this question. And again, I this comes as a person that has, I've come to have some of the best friends I've ever made in life in labor unions. But I was in rural Missouri. I didn't come to labor knowing a lot about it. I didn't grow up around it. As you moved through your career, did you ever look back and say, okay, I had disagreements with this Bill Campy, right? I had disagreements with the union. But when you ran the union, it's like, okay, I still disagree, but I have some better understanding of where they were coming from.
So, absolutely. Let me say this. I think I became as good as people think I am because I looked at every single person and I looked at what they did wrong. And when I say wrong, just handling something.
Your opinion,
right? Not a bad decision, but maybe the way you deliver the decision differently. And I tried not to make the same errors that my predecessors make. So when I look at Bill Campy was brilliant in so many ways, but there are some tactical things he could have done differently. So I learned from that. It's like, I won't do that because I remember the way that rubbed me as a young man. Mm-hmm. I tried to do that through my career, tried to learn from those. So, and by the way, when I took my job and I told you I was going to be out of town for 6 months at a time, they hired me to fire me. They wanted to work me to death. You know where they sent me? Right in your neck of the woods, buddy.
So yeah, that's right.
Poplar Bluff.
I
buddy.
believe that fully. I have no problem believing that.
Poplar Bluff. I don't know if you remember the Mama campaign was down there at one point in time. Vicki Lars came to Poplar Bluff talking about the value of a union.
I have heard about this. Yes, she had a mama's family.
Mama. Yep.
I've seen pictures of it. I don't remember it. I think
you're a little younger than me. Yeah.
But I definitely remember seeing it was a big deal in Poplar Bluff.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it was. So I came on right at the tail end of that. So, and their goal was to work me to death. They had a guy down there to give me a list every day and make me quit. Because if you quit, you can't run for office, right? If you can't take a job as a rep,
Yeah.
how are you going to run for office? I'd go back every day. He'd be sleeping on the couch, and I'd say, hey, buddy, I'm done. What do you want me to do down? He says, what do you mean you're done? So I'm throwing the list you gave me for the day. So he finally went back to St. Louis, and he says, why do you want this guy to quit? I've never seen anybody work like him.
You know, there's something about there's a work ethic in St. Louis. That is, it's a labor town in many ways, but really, you say what you will about St. Louis, there is a work ethic that people have there. I remember Mike Kehoe, a guy that I'm in Berry County one day, and and we're doing a show about the history of Berry County, and this Larry Sifford pulls me aside and he goes, I taught Mike Kehoe how to sell cars. He goes, I was the guy selling big trucks at the time for Dave Sinclair. And he goes, I went in, turned in my 90-day notice. He said, I wanted to give them, they were so good to me, I wanted to give them 3 months to find somebody else. And I said, I'll leave when you want, but I'll stay 90 days. And he comes up, the guy says, hey, Mr. Sinclair, why don't you come out to his farm? Had a big farm out in St. James. Wear your jeans and meet him at the farm. And he said, Mr. Sinclair, I'm not going to stay. My wife wants to move back home, and I'm going with her. And he goes, no, I want you to take the time and train. You know that kid that washes cars in the back? He goes, oh, yeah, I know him. He goes, he's got a temper, but he works like a demon. And he said, I taught Mike Kehoe how to sell trucks in 90 days, and he just went on and sold box trucks forever. There's so many stories, but it is a community. And we'll talk about Governor Nixon later, but it's a community that I do believe, even to this day, values work.
I would agree with you. We worked really hard when I was in the stores.
Yeah.
Played extremely hard, but our job was always done. I mean, I'm not going to say we didn't have some 2-hour beer lunches. The manager knew what bar we was going to, but he knew if big shots were coming in, he'd call and tell us to get back there. He'd get fired for that today, but the job was always done.
Yeah.
Always done.
There is a value in that St. Louis community. And everything changes and evolves in life, and it's probably shown in different ways today. But I've always thought in St. Louis there's a value placed on work.
I would agree. Yeah, and I always drove myself to be, if not the best, the hardest working.
Yeah.
You could be better than me, and that's okay. I've got a friend in California. I tell him all the time, I hate you because you're a better president than me. You're a better leader than me. And I hate saying that somebody's better than me because I want to be the best, but you don't outwork me.
Okay, so they sent you down to my neck of the woods in southeast Missouri, which is a pretty isolated place from St. Louis. The way is 655. How far west does it go?
We take the eastern third to half of the state.
And is that the way it was back then as well?
Yeah.
So you make it in Jeff City even?
Back then?
Yeah.
No, we don't. We don't make it now.
Yeah.
We have Columbia.
Okay.
We don't have Jeff City. It kind of zigs back up.
So as Columbia would be probably the farthest west.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they said about as far isolated as you could get from St. Louis would be southeast Missouri and 655.
That would be it.
So they sent you down what was at the time a 2-lane road in 67 on the way down, and you hit stores like Poplar Bluff. Where was that route you'd run?
So we were out there hand billing anything that would move. We had a couple of campaigns with school districts, with nursing homes, with Schneider's IGA. You probably remember Schneider's IGA.
Absolutely. Did you ever get Snyder?
We did not. Never got him.
Louis Snyder is a mentor of mine. He'd long, by the time I knew him, he'd long since retired with the grocery business. He had a saying, "Isn't it great to live in Poplar Bluff?" That was his saying. He was a one-of-a-kind marketer. So tell me what that's like when you're doing hand billing. Well, first of all, define UFCW. What is? I always think of it as Schnucks, Deerbergs, etc. What is UFCW? What is the focus of the union?
The industries we represent? Yeah. So it is predominantly retail with local 655, but there is food processing. We have Holton Meat Burgers in Sauget. We have Belleville.
Anybody else in Sauget or just them?
That's it. We've made a run at the other one. I've given it my best.
You got to work it. Yeah,
you do. Belleville Boot makes the military boots for all of our soldiers overseas in Belleville. We represent them. We had a pretty good size footwear division for a while. Every shoe factory was its own local union in the state of Missouri. And as they started to shrink, they started merging in. So at one point in time, I think Local 655 had about 1,500 members in the footwear industry. We have a lot now. UFCW nationwide is really big in the beef, poultry, pork processing. We don't have that because there's not that much in the state of Missouri where there's kill factories.
Mm-hmm.
So, but predominantly retail.
So you're going to places that I would know, like Snyder's, Kroger, and I'm sure every town had a Snyder's, different ones. So you're hitting that route, 60s, Dexter, Sykeston, Cape,
All over.
Loop. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So
what's that like? If I'm leaving work at Snyder's IGA in Poplar Bluff, and Dave Cook, a young Dave Cook, is out there handing out a handbill, what's it say? What's that? What's the interaction like?
it's something to try to prod them. Do you want a better life?
Yeah.
Do you think your job is giving you everything you deserve? That's the crux of it. It's really, can you be better together? Does your boss do anything without a contract? Why shouldn't you work without a contract? Your boss would not do something. He doesn't have groceries delivered without having a contract with somebody.
Yeah.
So don't you deserve the same benefits that your boss has? Just trying to prod them into moving to better themselves. It's a hard sell. It's tough.
I can see that.
Especially when you talk about the Snyder's IGAs, those employees are indebted to that employer. They work for him.
Sure.
I mean, not just the boss, but they know him.
I mean, now, I'm sure at the time Kroger was probably always a corporation. You got like Snyder's IGA. Louis Snyder was Snyder's.
Absolutely.
You knew the owner.
Yeah.
You walked through the store every day.
Queen's IGA in St. Louis. I mean, Jack Queen ran Queen's IGAs, right? So you knew the person. He walked through the stores. He said hi to you. He asked about the child. He asked us if you needed anything. Talking somebody into going against that boss because they see it as a you or them, and I'm an outsider, I'm a stranger, especially from St. Louis. I'm a St. Louis boy in Poplar Bluff.
Would not have helped you in Poplar Bluff.
It does not help.
And we can tell.
Yeah.
Just like when we come to St. Louis, you guys can tell.
We know.
We can tell.
We know.
So did you have any success organizing places?
Quite honestly, the group I came on with organized more than anybody that ever organized. Unfortunately, at that time, we had a person in bargaining that wasn't adept at it. He thought he was, but he wasn't. He never got us a contract.
Well, it's got to be tough, though, geographically. I mean, when we'll get to right to work later, but I understand some of the lack of, or maybe the support for right to work. You get down on in Illinois, it's a heavily unionized state. It's not a right to work state. You get in Arkansas, it has been for a long time. Oklahoma, Kansas, these places where I understand the draw more. When you get to a place like Southeast Missouri, you have Illinois, but really Illinois quits being developed.
No, it's not.
That's
not the Illinois. That's not the Illinois that everybody thinks.
Yes,
it's really not.
You got Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, right there, all non-union states or not right to work states. I understand where it would be tougher for a person. I mean, because these folks, they're making the same decision union members make. What's best for me and my family? Am I going to get fired? Is our store going to close? There's a lot. I think it's more complex when you get right on the border of a right to work state.
Oh, absolutely. And you nailed it, Scott. It's those two issues. It's like, am I going to get fired?
Yeah.
Is my company going to close? Those are tactics that every employer uses, and it's real. It is. I'm not saying
it's a bluff. It's real to a worker. That's their job.
No, it's real to that worker.
Yeah.
To sit down and contemplate, how am I going to support my family if my company goes out of business or I get fired because of this? Is the risk worth the reward? And quite honestly, a lot of times when you get to areas like that, the risk isn't worth the reward.
Okay. All right. So they can't get you to quit, huh?
They tried.
Yeah.
You know me. I don't quit. I don't quit well.
You're a stubborn son of a gun. I mean, I say that as a compliment.
Yeah.
But as one myself,
Yeah. No, I tell everybody I just outweighted them. So
how'd that go about?
Well, actually, I think when I went to work for the union, I had a different vision of what it was. And when I got inside and I realized what the union actually was, I had a different respect for it than I had as a member. And quite honestly, I became enthralled with the labor movement for the 1978 right to work fight. You were not even nothing back
Not
then.
even born.
Yep. But in 78, there was a big rally down here in Jeff City. Biggest one I've ever seen to this day. It filled the entire outside bowl, street to street to street. And I saw some speakers get up there speaking about the ills of right to work. And I went because my produce manager was like, hey, do you want to go to this right to work rally in Jeff City? The union's going down there, taking buses down. I went home and told my dad what the guy had said. And he says, well, son, I suggest you do something useful to get off your ass and go down there. And I was like, okay. So I went down there. And Scott, I got to tell you, I looked at that crowd. And more importantly, I looked at the speakers on the Capitol, and everybody's attention was drawn to them. It's like, that's pretty cool. Having people listen to you and follow you, that's what I want to be. So I had a dream and a vision, quite honestly, that I wanted to be in some capacity that I could speak to large groups and move large groups from day one. So when I got with the union, quite honestly, I always wanted to be the president. I'd be anybody's second man. I'd do any position. I'd clean the toilets for you. I don't care. But I always wanted to lead. I want to be in that seat where I could talk to somebody like you.
Was the rally for right to work or against?
It was against right to work.
Yeah.
78. Yep.
Yep. I see there's a photograph in Mike Kelly's office.
Yeah.
Of the victory party that night. His dad's there holding the sign up, and there's people filled the whole picture. But I still to this day I hear stories, folks talking about that campaign.
It was a great campaign. I worked on that campaign a little bit. I went to the rally, did some hand building, some other stuff, got a little bit of the fever. But once I get inside the union, it's like, you can make a change here.
It was a stomping, right?
It was a stomping. It was a 2 times in Missouri.
It was a stomping that was so thorough. What it lasts for what?
40
years. Wow.
40 years. 78 to 18.
18, yeah.
Yeah.
So you go get the bug a little bit and you decide you want to lead. How do you go from the guy the union doesn't want around and they're trying to get to quit to moving up?
I applied myself, quite honestly. I took the job extremely serious. I played hard. You know that. I've been with you.
Yep.
We've been to the Lake of the Ozarks. We've been in other nightclubs, and I play hard, but I applied myself and I took it very serious. When I got on health and welfare and pension funds, there's sessions once a year. They were very nice places. They're in Hawaii or Orlando or this or that, and a lot of people go to enjoy the setting. I want to go to the classes. I want to learn. At these sessions, they had guys back then, they had the name tag, and they put ribbons down for all the different, especially credentials they had. I'd always make sure I was sitting around people with a bunch of ribbons because I knew they were smart.
Yeah.
So if I can hang around somebody that's smarter than me, my attorney told me all the time, if you stick around long enough, you're going to learn something, even if it's by accident. Dave, you're living proof of that. You stuck around a long time. You learned a whole lot. And I know it was on accident because you didn't mean to learn.
He was.
Yeah, he did.
So you started going to these things. Where did the dam break to let you be? I mean, if you're the guy that if I'm in your Mr. Campy shoes, right? I want you to quit. I'd stick you down south of the Missouri. Makes total sense. How do you transition from a guy they're trying to get to quit to a guy that they want to put on some of these boards?
Part of it was intimidation and fear of me. There was a leader that wasn't doing a good job at one point in time. Myself as a very young employee, and by that point in time, I had no fallback to the stores because you only have that for 3 years.
Yeah.
I was on staff for about 4 or 5 years. The leader wasn't doing what he was supposed to be doing, and myself and 2 other staff people got together and sent a letter to him, delivered it to him personally, sent it to every labor leader in the state and every UFCW president in the country, saying it is time for him to resign. He has to leave.
Who was he?
I can't. I'm not gonna diminish his name.
I didn't know if it was public or how that worked.
No, and we were able to withstand the pushback from that.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody did that against me. I fired him. So, you told me you're going to oust me as the president when I'm doing my job. Let me say that. And the first one wasn't doing their job. I had a lot of breaks given to me too.
You're getting to the mid 80s now.
That would have been late 80s.
Late 80s.
Yeah, late 80s, because the union, let me take that back, it would have been early 90s. We had a union election in 1990 against a complete slate of opposition candidates from the stores and the facilities that we represented.
Were you part of that opposition?
I was not. I was a good soldier, and I talked to the other side. I understood what they were saying, but I didn't agree with the tack they were taking.
But that is an interesting thing about how in the early 90s, you were a guy that could talk to both sides. Because I watched, the teens mid-teens. Not within UFCW. I didn't see that granular level, but I saw in labor overall, you became a person that could talk to the trades and with the more progressive unions. That any parallel there?
Yeah, I think I've figured out early in life that if you can keep a line of communication open, no matter whether you agree or not, you have a pathway to resolution. But if we're not talking, if you're drawing lines in the sand and stopping the conversation, you're never gonna fix it. I think that's one of the big problems we have in the country today. You don't see people having conversations about disagreements. I don't have a problem having a hard conversation with somebody, not wanting to change your mind, just share my opinion. And then, by the way, is there something we can agree on? Scott, I sat in a bar here in Jeff City numerous nights and had cocktails with Eric Burleson, of all people. Now, he is the most anti-union individual that was down here. But I always thought to myself, if I can have a line of conversation with him, we may find something to align on. We may. Won't be right to work. I know that. But we can find something. And quite honestly, if I can have that relationship with that person, if they don't hate you, they don't want to kill you as bad.
I'd say it was interesting for me. I met Mike Kelly, a mutual friend of ours. I knew what right to work was, kind of, but I didn't really care, if you want the truth.
Yeah.
It just wasn't
from Butler County, Poplar Bluff, why would you?
It just wasn't labor issues weren't something that really mattered to me. I met Mike Kelly because we were at a function together and he was fun and I liked him and we ended up becoming friends. We didn't talk that much politics other than just to joke around.
Yeah.
But I made a friend.
Yeah.
And then after I made a friend, I asked questions and I was interested in what he did. And he would tell me and then my mind starts to change. So, well, okay, now wait a minute. I see where you're coming from there. It's interesting.
You don't have to rely on everything.
It's almost like church. You make a friend, a lot of good things happen from it.
Yeah. And as I said, you don't have to align on everything.
Yeah.
You and I don't align on everything. We align on a lot of things, though. We align on more than we don't because we continue to have conversations. We continue to talk.
I mean, I have to say, I always owe Mike Kelly a great debt. I don't know that I would have known you.
We wouldn't.
I mean, we might have met, but I don't think we'd become friends. We wouldn't have met in a setting where we'd have naturally became friends and talk about things we do agree with and share in common.
And that's where we pulled at the Lake of the Ozark having a cocktail.
Absolutely.
That's where we met.
So you stayed on the side of the existing union management.
I did. And let me say, at that point in time, we had 17,000 members. I think about 11,000 people voted in that election, and the president maintained his position by 200 votes.
Wow.
That's close.
Would you have been out of a job if he'd lost?
Yes. No, I think the opposition probably would have retained me because they had a high level of respect for me. Probably would have got bumped down and not had the opportunities. But and that is when, shortly after that, is when myself and the other two people got together and said, if we don't change leadership,
it's going to change anyway.
It's got to change in 3 years. The next election, they would not win. And that's why we did what we did. It's like, we need to save the org. I am never a proponent of turning over a local union to a group of rank and files. I just don't think they have the knowledge. Listen, I thought I knew everything when I was coming into the union.
And when you first filed, you're the man. And
yeah, I know everything. I learned so much inside the doors and figuring out how to work with people. And I owe a tribute to a lot of people to get there, right?
Okay, so what I know about unions, it takes a little moxie, balls, whatever you want to call it. Take yourself back. Tell me what that was like when you have this letter that you signed to people. You're going to walk in and deliver it personally. I mean, that's a man's move, right?
Yeah.
What's that like? You got a little bile in the back of your throat, a little butterfly in your stomach?
It was gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
The meetings were at my house. We crafted the letter.
Yeah, but tell me when you're walking this letter in, you have to bite down hard? You take a shot of whiskey before you walk in there? What do you do?
I've had 2 of those meetings in my life, Scott, and that one probably wasn't as difficult because I wasn't the spokesman. There was a senior rep that was the spokesman, and we just need to be there for support. And as a younger person, so at that point in time, listen,
You take a bear with a switch in the woods at night, and
if I lose my job, I'll go get 3 jobs. Kroger went out of business. I was working 3 jobs at one time to make ends meet. Later in my career, when I had to ask a gentleman to step aside to allow me to take over, that was more difficult.
So you walk in, this guy, what does he tell you? He said, okay, I'll quit. What's he say?
The second time?
No, the first time.
First time, no, we're not going to have that. So one individual got sent to Arkansas. Seriously, he was in Arkansas and he got to come home every other month. I went from servicing in the city to organizing. The other senior rep went from servicing in the city, and your city reps always kind of had some whiskers, right? Little seniority. Your outstate ones that had all the travel, at that point in time, you were living in your car, basically, hotel to hotel. He was a long-term rep. He got from a city territory, he got moved to a rural territory. So it was
Clear retribution.
Oh, clear, absolutely. But legal. There's nothing against it in the labor movement. I mean, you took on the boss.
Yeah.
You work at the will of the president. I mean, that is the way it's set up.
Okay, so then what happened?
The rest of the staff got together and realized that we were right in what we were saying. And little by little, he saw the writing on the wall that, listen, he's losing the staff. He walked away and somebody else came in.
So what did that mean for Dave Cook?
It started out great. It started out as the person, we put a platform of 13 things together. Here's the 13 things that have to change with the local union. First one was he had to leave. And there were other items on there. The new president came in and instituted every one of them, took myself and the other two under his wing and thought, this is great. I've got some smart people. I'm going to take advantage of them.
Who's the new president, or is that private? I don't know.
It is Nick Torpia.
Okay.
Over. Very charismatic. I'm not disparaging him, but he wasn't the smartest guy around, but he's smart enough to look at smart ideas. Unfortunately, the power of the chair got to him. And after he was in office for a year or two, and we've seen this. You've seen it. I've seen it.
I tell you what, and I think if you know me, I am the person that values people that work for a living. I value labor unions a great deal, but I do think it's easy. So it's easier than not, actually, when you get in that position. It is a position that is a very high position, very high responsibility. I do think it's almost easier than it wouldn't be to be the person that does get an ego stroke from that.
Yeah. And stop the checks and balances. And within 2 to 3 years, we were all ostracized. We were on the outside. He saw me as a threat.
You got bumped down when you deliver the letter.
Yeah, I move up.
What's that look? What does that job mean?
It's not really a demotion, but it's a change in responsibility.
Yeah. So would you get your responsibilities elevated then?
I did.
Under Mr. Torpia?
Yeah, I came into a major city territory that was in shambles. Got that turned around, got a good following, and was building a name for myself with the Stewarts that I represented.
So your whole career has been, from the time you were in school to the time you retired, was in and around UFCW and UFCW jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. Only job I ever had.
That's amazing.
Yeah, member of the unions for 48 years.
Okay, so it bumps you up in responsibilities.
Yep.
Then when you get ostracized, do you get demoted?
No, not at that point in time. I didn't get demoted, but made sure that there was no primetime speaking, for example. I had a group go on strike, and I got the camera shoved in my face, and I didn't do bad. I don't dislike cameras, Scott. I don't know if you know that.
No.
And he saw that and didn't like it. I will tell you, I did something by accident that worked out as a godsend for me. So Local 655 used to have we still do have shop steward seminars. They used to be once a year. And under Nick Torpia, which is when I was really getting my feet under the ground, Nick was not a partier. He would, he wanted to play, but he didn't want to play in the bar. He didn't drink. He just didn't believe in that. So at the Sharp Stitch seminars, you're out of town for 3 days, and he'd shut the bar down when dinner was over. And you've got a bunch of young, vibrant people down there with no alcohol. So it's like, well, we can't have this. So I started having get-togethers in my room. They became legendary to the point that they ended up having to give me a party room without him knowing it for me to have my after-hours party in. I'd literally go, when it was at the Lake of the Ozark, we'd have the big old jacuzzi tub in my room. We would fill that to the top with beer. And
I believe you.
And we would go through that.
Yeah, I started to say, there probably wasn't many left.
Yeah. And I knew that I was just doing it to have fun, right? Listen, you know me, give me a beer and a couple of buddies, and we're gonna party, right? What started out with that, I knew I was onto something. After about year 7, he told me, by the way, you're not having your party tonight. I said, you're not buying anything. He said, nope, but you're not going to have it. I said, oh, okay. So I turned around from the stage, and I'm walking away, and I said, no problem, buddy. You're going to save me about $500, $800, $700 in liquor. I said, and I'm going to tell all the shop stewards that you said I can't have my party. He stopped. Turn your ass around and get back over here. Yeah. He said, have your party, but I'm going to be. I said, I'm going to beat her. I said, it's an open door policy, Nick.
You were welcome the whole time.
Everybody's always welcome. At that point in time, it hit me that, because he is very politically monitoring his, right? And it's like, if he's that worked up about it, I've just built a following.
Yeah.
And I had a following of every shop steward with Local 655. They knew me. They partied with me. I did a great job for them when I was working, but that only goes so far. You want to
make a friend. Yeah.
You want a friend. So I made about 200 friends.
I'm a believer you can never have too many friends.
You can't.
Okay, so I mean, I absolutely 100% understand exactly what you're saying. I mean, Gussie Bush always said our business is making friends.
Yep.
There's many ways ours is the same way. So, Mr. Torpilla's there. You're maybe becoming leader of an opposition, a respectful one. But
no, because let me say this. He always thought that I was going to take him out. And I told everybody from the day I started down there, as long as you're doing your job and taking care of our members, I would never oppose you. Even if I thought I could do better, I would never oppose you. Do your job. Now, Nick started doing things he shouldn't have done. I had actually went to somebody, a confidant of mine, and I said, do me a favor, start helping me get information together because he has to go. He was verge of illegal activities. Department of Labor finally came in and pushed him out, and that's when Bob Kelly came in.
Oh, yes.
So Bob came in for a period of time. Bob apologized to me later in life. He said, him and Nick were friends.
What year did Bob come in?
Bob came in 2003. We had the grocery strike, so it would have been January 2003. We had the strike in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
But he told me, he says, I sat down with Nick, and we were talking about as he was leaving, I was going to be taking over, give me an evaluation. He says, I didn't listen to his opinion on anybody except for you. And he told me, you can't trust Dave Cook. And he says, I apologize, Dave. I listened to him, and I should have trained you to be the president after me, and I didn't. Because that's okay, Bob. It did me good to sit on the sidelines. It let me, Jim Darty took over after Bob, and
what did you, when you were on the sideline? What did you do when you're on the sideline?
I just kept doing what I was doing.
What were your job responsibilities?
I was a service rep, so I would.
What's that mean?
I'd stop by my Schnuck, Deerberg, Shop and Save, Holton Meats, whatever it may be, take care of any problems, and I was known as tenacious yet fair. My managers liked me because if I had a member that screwed up, in that meeting, I'd tell my member, you screwed up. If the manager screwed up, I'd tell them you screwed up. Listen, black is black, white is white.
Yep.
If you're wrong, you're wrong.
So were you do those stores all in the St. Louis area?
Yeah, and Nick's way of punishing me was he always gave me the worst territory, meaning if there is a rep that wasn't doing what they're supposed to be doing, he's starting to get some complaints. Well, I'm going to put Dave down there because he did know one thing. If I went in there,
You hustle it, yeah.
his phone stopped ringing.
Yeah.
People were taken care of. Well, if you're the guy that fixes the problem in location after location, and I was lucky enough to have every area that we represent except for North County Schnuck. So every single facility that we had under jurisdiction, at one point in time, I was a union rep for.
Which probably lets you build more friends, right?
More of a network.
Make more friends.
More of a network.
So tell me about your family at this time.
Pardon me?
Tell me about your family at this time.
So I got married when I was working at Kroger, and this job truly cost my first marriage.
Sure.
I was a 5-to-1 guy. I went in at 5 o'clock in the morning. I came home at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I went from that to being gone 10 days at a time. And she told me, she says, I can't live like this. This isn't what I signed up for. Wonderful lady. Still talks to my mom. No ill feelings whatsoever.
This is a hard life. I mean, to me,
It's a demanding life on the wife. Let me say that. Got married to my second wife because I believe I was going to die if I did it, because I was partying a little too much at that time. I just was going to bars every single night and met her, and that was a mistake. We would both agree on that. But then I met my wife today, a wonderful lady, Chris. You know her. She was a member of Shop and Save. I call it my super servicing program. You can only do one of those.
I have never been anywhere with your wife that I didn't have a better time. More fun, more smiling, more laughing.
Yeah.
She is a shot of life.
Yeah. So, and she was there in my life since 2000. So we got together a little before that, but we officially got together in 2000, started living together. So she was there at the end of the Torpedo years, for the Bob years, Jim Daugherty years, and then my ascension up to the presidency.
So Bob Daugherty comes in.
Jim
Daugherty, sort of trained by Mr. Kelly.
Yeah.
What did you do then?
I was actually his number 2. So when he came in and Bob had anointed him, worked the board to make sure that was going to be acceptable, Jim came to me and said, I want to make you my secretary treasurer, but I have a real question about your loyalty. And I told him what I told everybody. As long as you do your job and you do what you're supposed to do for our members, I'll have your back forever. He put his wife, now girlfriend at the time, as his assistant, and Dave Pleat, which is a great friend of mine, as his other assistant. And they had decided they would make me an obsolete individual. Well, I might be number 2 by title, but they're kind of burying me. They made the mistake of saying, we're just going to put you on the Walmart fight. That's when Walmart was coming into St. Louis and Wake Up Walmart, and they put me on that. I don't know if you know this guy because you weren't a St. Louis guy, but there was very few months went by that I wasn't at a city planning meeting fighting a Walmart development and being interviewed by every freaking news station in St. Louis.
Well, I got to be honest with you. So being from rural Missouri, that's just where people shop, right? Well, I grew up in the late 90s. I graduated high school in the late 90s. I just, every time at a Walmart, I just thought we'd win. I knew of Schnucks because of the Cardinals games. They'd have advertised on there. But I moved to St. Louis. 06, I believe, 05.
Oh.
And I'm shocked. There's no Walmart.
No.
There was one Walmart over on Hanley Road.
Yeah.
I just thought that's what people did. It never occurred to me that there wasn't a Walmart everywhere in the world, because everywhere in the world I went, there was a Walmart. That's where everybody shopped at. It blew me away that the only Walmart, I mean, hell, I don't know. Out west, I'm sure they started having them, Chesterfield, Eureka somewhere. But I mean, there was one on Hanley Road.
Nothing.
Shocked.
Yeah. But that was my job.
I thought there was Walmarts, and I just couldn't find them.
No, they weren't there.
Then I went to Schnucks, and I was like, well, this is way better. I understand.
Yeah.
I get it. I didn't understand.
Yeah, but that was my job, was to fight Walmart's coming in. So,
I don't go to Walmart to this day because I made the mistake of talking to Walmart around you once, and between you and Mike, you just don't know what you don't know, right?
Well, and quite honestly, they had a brilliant business model. I mean, they went to the rural areas and eliminated competition. And I mean, Sam Walton is a genius.
Just buy cheap crap from China, and
Yep.
So you kept that was your job to keep you did a hell of a job, right?
We did. We effectively slowed them down. Let me say that. We effectively slowed them down.
Well, to this day, I mean, they got one. There's one in Chesterfield Valley. There's one in Eureka. There's one in Kirkwood.
Yeah, they're there now.
They're creeping in.
Yeah,
there's one in South County off 255.
Yeah,
but I mean, I can literally name them, and you would assume there'd just be so many. Like, I can't name all the Schnucks,
right?
Even close,
right?
But in the city, there's still just the one on Hanley, right? Well, it's not in the city, but closest, right?
Right. But like I said, they let me do that, and I was literally. I mean, I spent 3 anniversaries in a row. 3 of my wedding anniversaries in a row at city planning meetings with my wife, because it's like, well, Chesterfield's got a Walmart coming up. I've got to go out and talk on that, or Baldwin's got one, or whoever. It's like, and if it's on the planning and zoning docket for that night, babe, we're going to be there. So 3 anniversaries in a row, my lovely bride sat in city council meetings with me as I would get up and talk about the ills of Walmart and why they shouldn't approve it. And then I'd get interviewed by Channel 2, by Channel 4, and by Channel 5. And guess who watched that? Every local 655 member.
Yeah.
I mean, it just continued to...
And not just watch it, was like, hell yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it continued to brand me.
Yeah.
And
At some point, didn't they figure this out, that this was not putting you on the sidelines like they thought?
let me say, I have a lot of respect for Jimmy. He did a lot of things really good in his career. I think he would tell you that public speaking is not his forte. He could do it.
Yeah, I remember when they tried to put one in Ellisville.
Yeah.
That's how I got to know Adam Paul.
Oh, yeah.
There's not a Walmart in Ellisville.
There's not. There's not.
And they had this big tract of land. I mean, it felt like you were going to lose that fight, honestly.
Yep.
Because it just made a lot of sense. The inertia seemed it was going that way, and then
It didn't.
it didn't. No,
It didn't.
every time I drive by there,
Yeah.
because my daughter's orthodontist was still there.
Okay.
We lived in Jeff City. We'd drive over, and Ellisville Dental is right there at Clarkson
Yep.
in Manchester.
There's not a
And I'd drive by that place, and I'd be like, "Damn it, that was an impressive effort."
Yeah.
I remember Jane Duker was all over that.
Yep.
You, Adam Paul.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
Mike Kelly was always in those with us.
Yeah, Mike Kelly. You always know when Mike's in a place, right? You don't have to ask twice. I mean, you can tell.
Yeah.
You don't have to say, "Hey, is Mike here?" You'll be able to hear him.
Yep. Yeah. My wife would always joke that I was the safest person in the world to be around because I'd walk into a city planning meeting, and there'd be 2 to 3 officers that would just shadow me. They knew who I was when I walked in. It's like, well, that's the guy that's the guy. The developers, whether it was Drury or the other Steinbrenner, the other ones, they all knew, here comes Clark. He's going to be here again. What's he going to pull tonight?
Yeah.
Their cell I got shut down too. This is a public meeting and your room isn't big enough. We got people standing outside. If you continue this, we will file charges against you. You're in violation of freaking law. You have to have a public meeting. This isn't public. So
it just feels like, just thinking back, and like I said, I didn't get to see up close the ones you're talking about, but I did see the Ellisville fight. Boy, it seems like that's the kind of thing Dave Cook would have liked.
I loved it.
I bet you did. Yeah,
I was in my heyday.
yeah.
Just absolutely loved it. So yeah, it polished me for my presence in front of people and speaking to a camera. Your old employee that I was blessed enough to hire, Colin, said, I love working with you because you've never seen a camera you don't like, and you never have to answer the question, don't you?
There's some fight in Colin.
There is.
That's what I was like. There's a little dog in Colin. He'll get after you.
Yeah.
So what is it? Tell me about going from the situation where you went from the number 2 to leading UFCW.
So Jim had gotten tired. And I love Jim, and we made amends, but he wasn't doing what he should have been doing at that time. So I had to have my second hard conversation. It was like that we had the conversation 3 years before, and myself and underling management about eliminating Jim because he was slacking a little bit. And I said, no, it's not the time. The staff had come to me and told me that if I did not run against Jim or have him step aside, somebody else would. And you're the one that should do it, but if you don't, we will have somebody. So I called every staff person individually. I called the entire board. I polled everybody. It wasn't even a campaign. I was asking people for the support. I was just saying, this is what I'm hearing. Where are you at? So I went into Jim on a Friday afternoon and said, Jim, I've talked to the entire staff and board, and the entire organization supports me. It's time for you to step aside. You can finish your term with dignity. Not asking you to leave early. Figure out what you need to do. That's a tough conversation.
What's that like? You wake up that day, you just say, okay, I'm going to do it this Friday.
Yep. It was gut-wrenching. It was truly one of the worst professional days I've had because I didn't dislike Jim.
Yeah.
I to this day, I don't dislike Jim. I like Jim. And to have that conversation was just absolutely brutal. And the shit of it was, Jim had gotten a little bit tenacious and maybe a little harsh to some staff people the last year and a half of his career down there.
What's easy to do, isn't it?
It is, but I'll be damned if the week that we had planned it all out, and it's going to be on this Friday. That week he came in as a different person. Nice as could be, sat down and visited with everybody.
You got wind of it?
I don't know. I don't think so. And I say that, Scott, because you could have knocked him over with a feather when I had the conversation with him. I took Dave Fleet with me to just sit with me. He's going to be my number 2. And Jim was a methodical person, but I could tell by his reaction he didn't know what was coming. He started to say some stuff, and I said, Jim, please just take a breath, and it's Friday afternoon. Let's meet on Monday in here. Let's figure out where we go from here. Don't say something today that you're going to make me regret you saying on Monday. So let's just end the conversation here. So, and we had tough negotiations on Monday. Gave him what he needed to exit with dignity, and let us take over. And
way it should be, right?
Yeah. Well, people should always be able to exit with dignity, Scott.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get this idea of kicking people. I don't understand it. I've always tried to give people. I got known as the Terminator when I took over, because I ended up having to terminate quite a few people that weren't doing their job in this. But more times than not, it might have looked like a termination, but I let them exit of their own accord under their terms, give them a little bit of something, and let them leave with dignity.
So you take over. You running the election?
So I told you I'd kind of built a network through my parties and everything. We had no opposition.
Yeah.
I took over in March and of 2012. No, 2011. Of 2011, and we were up for re-election that year. It was, everybody's just ecstatic. All the members were ecstatic. And I've had a lot of blessings in my life to help me look better than I am, because I'm really not that good all the time. God rest his soul, Chad Young was my regional director for UFCW. Just a hard old cuss, ornery son of a bitch. He called me the week I'd taken over. He actually flew in from negotiations. The following Monday, he called me and said, "So you dumb S." I'm like, I can't say everything he said, but everything foul come out of his mouth. You don't even know what F's going on in St. Louis, in Jeff City, do you? That was the first time we'd had right-to-work legislation introduced in session. It had been introduced probably the week before I took over as president. He said, your state's going to be right to work and you don't even know what the hell you're doing. And Local 655 was not seen as a political powerhouse back then. We were seen as an organization that gave money, but we weren't seen as a political powerhouse. He said, so here's what's going to happen. He said, you're going to pull out all the lost timers you can pull out. I'm going to pay their salary for you, and I'm going to send you 2 political people from D.C. down to run a campaign in Missouri against right to work. So in 2011, Local 655 had 35 lost timers on the ground, door knocking, hand building in Jeff City. Had the number 2 and number 3 person out of Washington, D.C. helping navigate that. So I take over as the president, and a week later, or I guess it's probably 3 weeks later, Local 655 has an army on the ground. And everybody in St. Louis in labor is looking around saying, what the hell is going on? A little bit of dumb luck there.
You saw the fight coming, though. Somebody did.
So I did. He saw the fight coming. I don't think 11 was real, but it was starting. So from there, that helped brand me in the labor community, get me established a little bit, looked at as a leader. And I tell Mike Kelly this all the time. If not for Bob Kelly, I wouldn't be who I am. Bob Kelly called me and Jeff Abusi and one other person and said, I need to meet with you in my house. I made it. Jeff couldn't make it that night. He had something come up in Jeff City as it was, but I was able to get back. And he said, right to work is coming. It's on the doorstep. You need to put together a coalition, because it may not be this year, it may not be next year, but it's on its way. And I said, okay. And Bob, I've been the president now for about 8 months or 9 months. And who in Missouri is going to listen to the new president? And he looked at me, I'll never forget this. And I respected Bob at a very high level as a true icon, labor legacy. He says, Dave, those leaders are looking for a leader to lead them. And you're the leader. Go lead them. I said, okay. He said, pick up the phone and call them. Have a meeting in your office. They're looking for a leader. And we talked that night about who do we invite there, and we had it's 7 organizations represented in my union hall, and I hadn't been the president for a year. Made the phone call, the Jim Cabela's of Springfield, the Terry Nelsons of St. Louis, the Dave Zimmermans from the sheet metal workers. I'll never forget, had my big round table in my office, an oval table, and I said, so we need to figure out what this looks like, and, are we in for a fight? Have to have some stakes at the game, and we agreed. I said, does $100,000 a year just to sit at the table sound about right? That gives us a little money, and everybody's yes. And then we start talking about, we want to have agreement on things. We can't just have votes and it's a 5-4 vote and that's what we're going to do. We need unanimous votes on this. And you knew Terry Nelson, right?
Yes.
In typical Terry Nelson form, he took his big briefcase that he carried, if you ever saw him, and said, F this, F you, I ain't got time for this crap. I don't play in a room where I get approval from anybody. When I make my frickin' decision up, I frickin' do it, and that's it. F all of you. Closed his bag up and left. I mean, it would like...
Sounds like Terry Nelson.
Yeah, like 45 minutes in, I'm thinking, oh, man, this is the beginning of the end. We held the meeting. We all came to consensus that this is what we're going to do. We're going to put together Preserve Middle Class America. Still there today. Yeah. Terry Nelson, God love him, called me that evening, and he always called me little buddy. Hey, little buddy, how you doing? I said, okay. He said, hey, kind of sorry about that. But, I just ain't got patience. You know that. So what did you come up with? You come up with $600,000 a year? I said, that's what we're going to do to start with these. I'll tell you what. I'll write a check for $600,000 to my group, and we'll coordinate with you. How's that? He said, I want to be a part of it. He said, I just can't be on a team.
He's a good guy to have a line, though.
He's a good one to have on your side.
You were in for a fight. Terry Nelson would be a good guy to have on your side.
He was a good one.
All right, so you start to form that. What running the union? What's the thing that stood out to you when you took over? I mean, I know you've been number 2. You'd been all these jobs. When you actually walk in the thing and you're the president of the union, what hits you?
To learn from your predecessors.
Okay.
And I told you earlier, I tried to learn the flaws of my predecessors. If you eliminate people's mistakes, you eliminate the mistake this person made and that person made, and I had the honor to serve under, I guess, 5 or 6 different presidents. You eliminate all their errors, chances are you're going to be doing some pretty good things. And the one thing I saw all of them do in some capacity was close themselves in and become the king.
Sure.
And you may be the king.
It's almost easier to do that than not to do that, isn't it?
It is.
I have some sympathy for guys in that spot because I understand how you could get that way.
It's hard not to.
Yeah, I think it's harder not to than to.
Yeah, but I made sure to not do that. I made sure to keep my door open. I was the first president that I know of in the history of Local 655 that truly had an open door policy. My door was always open. And my secretary's door right outside mine was office open. So when somebody was coming into the office or leaving the office, they had a clear shot of me. And if I was at my desk, they knew they could walk in and talk to me at any point in time. So being able to keep that open line of communication and make sure my staff and I were aligned.
Well, walk me through a negotiation. I always think Schnucks and Dearberg are the most high-profile folks I associate with. When you're walking through a negotiation with, let's say, Schnucks, what's that like?
I always...
When do you start?
You have to start with where you think you want to be.
But so if it's a 3-year contract, 4-year contract, whatever it is.
It's a 3-year contract.
So do you start year 2 negotiating, 6 months out?
No, we generally start about 4 months in advance. They usually take about 9 months to negotiate. So do the math. We're always late getting them back.
Yeah.
I'm happy to say my last 2 contracts were ratified prior or right at expiration.
So if they don't get there's no contract, does the existing contract just carry on?
Yeah, we sign a day-to-day extension. Everything stays in place, and then you bargain till you get to an agreement. We were predominantly 5 to 6 months past ratification forever, and we stopped that 3 contracts ago, and we've started getting them done on time. But we starting a little earlier, and quite honestly, we have a policy on the labor side that I don't necessarily agree with, but you kind of inherit some things. Our policy is that if a member requests it, we put it in our proposal. Well, Scott, I have 8,000 people that work at Stuck and Deer.
It's got to be a big proposal.
It's a proposal that's not realistic. And trying to work through that, sometimes you can end up bargaining for something that you don't want and not getting something you want. So you have to be very careful about that. And quite honestly, negotiations to me got easier after the year as the years went on.
Did you get better at it, more experienced? Did the relationships improve, the climate improve?
I think the biggest part, I mean, yeah, the climate has changed nationally, right? Bigger, better contracts right now. But truly, I think it was a relationship built. So, and when I say relationship, we used to have relationships with the people bargaining. I think there became a level of respect for Local 655 and Dave Cook. And I remember my first contract, they were trying to do some things to our health and welfare. And I told the bargainer, who I'd known for 20 years, grew up in the industry together. Hell, we worked in the same store at one point. I told him it's not going to happen. And if that's in the proposal, it's going to go down. I believe it was Todd Stuck had just taken over. So it's going to be in the proposal, voted. And the guy, Don Shaper at the time, said, it's not going to pass. And he said, it's going to pass. And it was a good contract, minus the health and welfare part. And I think it went down by 91%. And I stood in front of the crowd, and it's like, this is not acceptable. And here's the reasons.
So just for people that don't understand, like myself, actually, you sent a proposal to Shucks. The first one you probably think not going to accept the first one, right?
But then we have 25 to 30 face-to-face bargaining sessions.
So then, if they make a proposal, you have to vote on the proposal they make?
No, until they finally, the employer you can come to a recommended agreement, which is what we want to do. We have a recommended agreement, or the company can say this is our final offer, or they can say this is our final last best, means they're going to implement it final, if you don't. Yeah. But if they say this is our final, you have a legal obligation to vote their final. If they say final last best, that gives them the right to implement that if you don't pass it. So they said, here's our final, go vote it. Went down by 90%. And we literally went back to the bargaining table. We had one session. They changed the two things on health and welfare I told them they had to change, and it passed by about the same margin. And from that point on, I think the companies realized the value of the mojo I had with my members.
How does a vote work?
It's a secret ballot now.
Does everybody show up to the hall?
That we used to went to Family Arena in St. Charles. Mm-hmm. My union hall won't hold that, but you have a couple thousand people show up. They're basically, if they don't close the stores, they're just basically say, we don't need you to show up for your shift. You're not going to be, you can make up your hours when the vote's over. We want you to go to the vote.
So if you work at Schnucks and it's at the Family Arena in St. Charles, you can choose not to go, right?
Absolutely.
But if you want to go, they're going to let you go.
They're going to let you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to encourage you to go.
So somebody's got to run the store while the vote's going, right?
So we have always taken a position. First of all, there's going to be some people that are going to say, I'm not interested. Yeah. Part-time kid, whatever the case may be. And then we've also said on cases like that, you can put any management people you want working, doing bargaining unit work. We don't care. Do what you got to do. Listen, I have never, under any circumstance, said we should ever do something to hinder the employer's ability to service their customers.
It's really not in the employer's interest to ask you to vote on a bunch of stuff.
Do what?
It's not in the employer's interest to ask you to make a bunch of votes, because it's still a pain at some level to have this thing. So you have this thing, and is it everybody gets a ballot? Is everybody registered?
So it's a process.
It's easy. It's yes or no, right?
Yes or no, but the registration process is a headache. I mean, you've got to make sure that it's like a political.
Well, they could say, Schnucks could give me $100, and I could show them, say, I vote yes.
Yeah, but so you've got to register. You've got to be a member. You've got to be on our scrolls. If you're not on our scrolls, we'll hook into the computer. We can check to verify are you or are you not, or do you vote a challenge ballot? Because if we can't verify you're a member, you get a challenge ballot. You don't get you get a provisional ballot. You don't get a regular ballot. Nobody gets to vote until I'm done. So you can come to the meeting. And we go through the presentation. I give some opening comments. We walk through the entire presentation, outline every change that's being made, and let them know if it's a positive, a negative, or just a cleanup item. I then open the floor for questions and comments and let people stand there and bitch and scream or ask whatever they want for as long as they want until there's a motion to vote. When there's a motion to vote, I'll do my closing comments, and then at that point in time, you're exchange what we gave you for a secret ballot. And you stand in line and vote in one of the ballot boxes, and then we tally them right there in front of you. So,
Has the vote ever surprised you?
no.
Yeah.
No. I mean, not really. You kind of know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And, you know, especially later in my career, it's like I know how to read a room. The last time we had a really bad showing, it was 2 contracts ago. And we had a bad showing because it was the best contract we ever had. I mean, we had the first dollar contract in the country here in St. Louis.
Explain what that is.
So we got a $1 increase every year in the contract.
Okay.
$1 an hour raise. That was the biggest contract any UFCW local had gotten in the country, period. That includes the Los Angeles. Oh, probably made me feel great.
And credit to the company too, right?
Yeah, they did the right thing. So going into that, it's like the problem is everybody we present. They see the proposal online because we don't hide it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's there. Nobody showed up because it was the best contract they'd ever seen. I don't need to show up; it's going to pass. Well, you know who shows up?
The beginners always show up. Yeah.
Pissed off people show up, Scott.
The beginners always show up.
So we had probably, I mean, I think at that point in time, we had 4,000 Schnook employees, and we had 600 show up, 500 show up. And at that meeting, the people were raucous against the contract because that's who shows up. And the people on the podium with me are like, oh my God, this isn't good. I said, we're fine. We're fine. I said, people scream and yell in the crowd. I said, but when they go to the box, they realize it's the best contract anybody in the country's ever got. And quite honestly, the best part was, I'll give you, so they're lined up at the microphones and somebody called for a question. And I said, all right, then we're going to shut down the questions. After everybody in line's done, we're going to shut it down. So the next 2 people talked. That was it. Some other old gentleman starts walking up. And I said, sir, I'm sorry, no more questions. The motion was made. And the crowd starts MFing me. Let him talk, because everybody's screaming at me, cussing at me. Said, absolutely, whatever pleasure the crowd is. He walks up and he says, I don't know what all you people are screaming about. This is the best contract I've ever seen in my life. Are you all that freaking stupid that you're actually thinking about voting this down? It's like, he turned
It was over. Yeah. Mic drop, and there you are. Okay, so you moved the right to work. I remember Rob Mayer from represented that Kroger and that Snyder's IGA. Said, I want to do right to work. I'm with you in 11. I don't think anybody really thought that's going to happen. Jay Nixon didn't have a lot of stuff. I mean, Dave Spinn's a great guy, but let's be honest. Normally, if you're going to beat an incumbent governor, I mean, Matt Blunt was the Secretary of State and beat Bob Holden. His father was a legend. His grandfather was a House member.
Yeah.
Matt, Dave, to knock off an incumbent governor, especially a popular one like Jay Nixon, I don't think the handicappers gave Dave Spence a lot of a shot. I think he was the good soldier.
Yep.
In some ways.
I would agree.
A very, very nice man. I really like Dave, but I don't think
They took one for the team.
Yeah, I don't think when he launched that campaign, it was like, oh, this is in the bag. Jay Nixon, the Babe Ruth of Missouri politics. Nobody's got more votes and more big elections than Jay Nixon.
Yep.
So 12, after it was funny, the state, people forget, the state almost voted for Barack Obama.
I know.
5,000 votes, a rounding error of votes.
Absolutely.
Barack Obama almost carried Missouri.
Yep.
I think if the race there was a blowout nationally, if it would have been anywhere close, they would have had some challenges, and maybe he did win, but he lost the state. And then he did Obamacare, and the world changed.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, I'll always respect Senator McCaskill. She shows up, and she comes to Poplar Bluff for a town hall, and no one in Poplar Bluff liked her. Nobody, and they sure didn't like Barack Obama for a bunch of reasons probably nobody likes to talk about.
Yep.
But still, I think, when he got elected, there was a warm and fuzzies for the most part.
Yeah.
He did Obamacare. That changes. The state legislature, the Republicans had taken over, had a lot of success. Boy, they did Obamacare. Everything changes. And all of a sudden, right to work is this thing that's like, yeah, whatever. Okay. Now, if this trend continues, it's going to change. They go back in the 14 elections. In 12, McCaskill runs against Aiken. Aiken gives the comment about legitimate rape. And the Republican ticket does not do as well as it probably by all rights should have in 12 in this state. 14, they made up for it. Who would have thought that Jeffco would have a Republican state senator, right?
Nobody.
Paul Whelan
Nobody.
defeats a very good candidate in Jeff Rorta handily, but I don't think he defeated Jeff Rorta. He defeated Barack Obama's.
He defeated the Democrat.
Yeah.
Period. He defeated a D.
And so the state is now not just Republican, they're damn Republican. And right to work becomes something. You have the most influential member of the legislature from Joplin and Ron Richard. Again, not a bad guy at all. Ron Richard has a different view of right to work than, let's say, Charlie Schild does, or let's say Tom Dempsey did, Mike Gibbons did. When you're from Joplin, although I don't necessarily agree with former Senator Richard, I understand his perspective a little bit more.
I do too.
He came out and said, by God, we were in on right to work. And he very definitely put in all the Senate campaigns. We're going to have right to work. Now, was it anywhere loud as guns and abortion? No. They run on guns and abortion. They won on guns and abortion. But, and Ron, you say what you will, Ron's not a liar. Ron put in these, made sure every candidate had their thing.
And listen, if you're from Joplin, Missouri, once again, you said it earlier, you're competing with Oklahoma, right to work. You're competing with Arkansas, right to work. He's competing to build Joplin up. That's what he wants to see happen. And in his mind, I don't agree with him, but in his mind, I've got to be equal on this issue.
And there is I'm heading down there Thursday. I go down there, I try to make the state quite often. If you go to the state line of Arkansas and Missouri, we all joke about Arkansas, right? Your guy got punished by going to Arkansas. But it is a wildly successful part of the country. That Fayetteville, Bentonville to Fort Smith, that Northwest Arkansas is an economic powerhouse. And there's some folks in that Joplin, Springfield area that are a little jealous of that. Mm-hmm. And they look at, well, why are you succeeding and why are you outpacing us? I understand Ron's view of the world. He shows up and they're going to be right to work. And right to work gets put up in the House in 13 or 14, dies a fiery death, doesn't make it anywhere in the House. But it was a springboard.
Absolutely.
Then they pass it on the floor. I remember they PQ it, right? And I remember Tom Dempsey. I've always had so much regard for Tom Dempsey. Tom's a St. Charles guy. Tom Dempsey is a union guy. He's a pro-worker guy.
Absolutely is.
But he went on the floor, as he always told his caucus, if the caucus is for something, I'll be for it. He didn't vote for it. It's a nuance of statesmanship that I don't think people respect. I'm so proud to know Tom Dempsey, and I was never prouder that day. He goes on the Senate floor and makes the motion to PQ something, which in the Senate is a big deal. Maybe not anymore.
Not yet. It's supposed to be.
And then we voted no. And I always thought, that is a person that probably wasn't cheering on right to work. To be honest with you, I was pretty vocally against it. I respected him for keeping his word, leading his caucus, and then when he was the pro tem of the Senate, he did that procedural move. But when he was the senator from St. Charles, he voted no.
Yep.
I've always had so much regard for that.
Yeah. But it was building momentum at that point in time.
Well, it passed the legislature, right? Mm-hmm. Governor Nixon, to absolutely no one's surprise, very gleefully. I actually think I was there at the sheet metal workers. And he vetoed that.
I just saw a picture of that yesterday.
Oh, Jay Nixon did not have a frown on his face. No. Jay Nixon, if you wonder what it was like for Caesar to enter Rome, that would have been what that was like. Yep. I mean, they could have carried him around that place.
Yep.
It's like, I did not know Jay Nixon well. I've gotten to know him much better now. It was a fun thing in hindsight to watch a good man that guy in that room, Elvis would have been jealous of Jay Nixon's ovation.
He owned it. He
did.
Yeah, absolutely owned it.
I think Watson was there, and John was not he did not emote, but that day he couldn't beat the smile.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the governor's top staff people don't come to everything.
No.
But I remember seeing his troika of guys there, right? And I mean, they watched their boss. I mean, seriously, Elvis did not get the ovation that Jay Nixon did.
The ultimate victory party right there.
Yeah.
The ultimate. He won a lot of elections. He had more fun right then than he did.
Yeah, it's like sometimes we talked about it from the negative side. If you run a union, sometimes it's hard not to let that power kind of come to you. Well, let me just tell you, if you were Jay Nixon in that room, it would be damn near impossible not to feel.
Oh, he Yeah, he was he was feeling his oats that day. How's that?
There's no question.
Yeah, as he should. I mean,
absolutely.
he was surrounded by friends, and
And they were his people. His whole career.
His friends, and he saved his friends that day. Not many people get to say that they actually saved their friends' livelihood.
I watched one of the stupidest political attacks I've ever seen. And I mean, privately, the people that levied it would admit this and did. They said, well, he took money from the Teamsters. And so that's why he vetoed this. I'm like, Jay Nixon has hated right to work his entire life. Like, not anybody was, from his first grade teacher to the waiter that served him breakfast that morning at the restaurant. No one. He was going to veto that. I thought it was one of the best events I've ever seen, and it's fun to think about again. But then, Jay Nixon leaves.
Yeah.
And a guy named Donald Trump comes down an escalator in Trump Tower. A guy who's never been.
He got somebody else elected too. What was his name? Eric Wright.
Yeah, he's been 17 months here.
That's who he got elected.
He comes down the escalator, and this is so funny. A New York developer.
Yeah.
Not an opponent of unions in any way.
Sure.
A partner in many ways.
Yeah.
But the end result of one of the results of his election and his absolute amazing connection to this state and its people and to union members in this state and its people was the whole Republican ticket comes in. Two guys come in with him that I think there's two people that would not have won without him. I do think you look down that ticket, probably a Josh Hawley may win anyway, and Eric Schmidt may be the treasurer. The Secretary of State may have done whatever. But I think Mike Parson beat Russ Carden, the former congressman, son of a former governor. I don't by 3 points. I don't think he wins without Trump's amazing popularity. I don't think there's any way Eric Greitens defeats one of the. I really think if you look back on the
and I don't think Kander. I think Kander would have won. I think there's actually three. I think Kander would have won too.
Yeah,
that was Kander for U.S. Senate.
Yeah,
I mean that was
he helped Roy come across. I don't think there's any question about that. But I do think that
that was when Kander ran against
Roy.
No, Holly. Our current senator.
Josh Hawley ran against McCaskill in 18. He ran against the Cass County prosecutor, Teresa Hensley, in 16 for Attorney General.
I thought those two ran against each other. I have to look when we go off set.
We'll bet a beer on it.
Okay.
But I remember looking back and seeing, of the people the state missed out on.
Yeah.
A great public servant, would have been a tremendous governor. I think the state, not just because Greitens was such an embarrassment and a failure. I think the state missed that opportunity.
I thought it was a statesman. My international president came in.
Yeah.
He spoke at my seminar.
You all invested heavily in Chris Koster.
We did. We were in my room at the hotel prior to him going on stage, and my international president and I were very good friends. Had a great meeting with him before he walked out on the stage, and he looked at me and he says, "That man's going to be the president of the United States someday."
Yeah.
He has it, Dave.
He does.
He has it.
And sometimes you think that's just charisma, which Chris definitely has. But there was a leadership ability. Like it could make you want to follow him.
It was more than he is a pretty face and a silver tongue.
I'm a person who's been a Republican since I met Mark Richardson, my state representative back in the day. I voted for Chris Koster publicly, told anybody that would listen.
Yeah.
And again, obviously Eric Greitens was such a humiliation for the state and an embarrassment. But really, I think the state not only had to endure that 17 months of a joke and being a national joke, but I think we missed out on something with Chris Koster.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I know we did. We'd be a different state today if Chris was there then. Let me say that.
I do think you had an amazing scenario coming together of Todd Richardson, maybe I'm a little biased, from Poplar Bluff, a tremendous speaker. I think he's the most honorable person to ever be speaker. Ron Richard truly cares about this state. Political issue differences.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody, even his biggest adversaries, which I think maybe you might intellectually be one, would argue the man cares about the state. And then you put Chris Koster there, it would have been a great way for them to manage their nuts in their caucus and to do things that it would have been three people in an amazing place at a total.
You saying that makes me think about something, and that is, when you're talking about having these other conversations through my career, one of the reasons that I think I've been successful is I generally believe that the overwhelming majority of public servants especially truly want the best. There's not that many that want evil.
Yeah. I don't think it's evil. I do. I don't think many of them. I don't think Eric Greitens evil. What I do think is, you're right. Most of them, at the end of the day, want to succeed. Now, some of them want their ideology to succeed as much as they want the state to succeed. But overall, they want good things. Even if it's on their own self-interest to have good things, they want good things.
They do. And generally speaking, they want the state or their constituents to move forward.
Yeah.
They truly do. So in my mind, it's like if we can have these conversations, I may not agree with how you want to get there, but at the end of the day, we probably want similar outcomes. We want the people in our state that are my members or your constituents to have a better freaking life.
Then you run into the ones and the outliers, which I think we'll talk about here is, I don't think evil. I just think
I think some are evil.
So self-absorbed.
Yeah.
That the betterment of the state is an app.
I would agree with that.
I think they almost view themselves as a bigger deal than the state.
I actually think that's what we're dealing with in D.C. right now. I think there's an ego problem there of concern. So I don't think he wants harm for people, but I think he's more concerned with getting pumped up his ego than the outcome of everything else. Because I think there's a different way to broach things than what he's broaching them.
So it became pretty clear to me as the election unfolded that Trump was going to win by so much. And I don't think that was, Trump was a tremendous candidate, especially here in Missouri, but she was such a terrible candidate. I mean, I went to a labor meeting and I walked around the tables and every member was voting for Trump, 80%. Now look at the main stage. A lot of the union leaders were still going to vote for Clinton, but boy, she was just a terrible political candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Barack Obama beat her in 2008 when he probably shouldn't have.
Yep.
And Trump certainly shouldn't have won. But I think it's sometimes they pull the bar down for you to get over.
Well, let me say this. When you look at, we're talking about charisma and personality. You want to talk about opposite ends of the spectrum? It's her and him.
Well, and Donald Trump could have ran in 12, but he didn't.
Yeah.
Because he would have lost.
Yeah.
He would not have beat Barack Obama.
Oh, no.
I don't believe that for a second.
No.
But
and it wouldn't have been close. It would have been embarrassing. And that
I agree with that.
And that would have damaged his mantra.
Well, it's a smart guy, right?
Yeah.
You didn't run against Mr. Doherty. It didn't seem like the right play, right?
Yeah.
Didn't. And I'm sure Trump made a similar thing, mostly that he couldn't win. So you could see the campaign. And I actually went to the IBEW hall. I stood by May Sheepy. I wanted to watch Chris's last speech. It meant something to me to go watch that. And when we were, because you could tell, like, I was probably the only Republican in the room, but I was the one that already voted for Chris early, absentee, and I wanted to watch the last one. I think I left before it was even over because I came to see what I came to see. Yeah. You had to know though the next morning, okay, the fight's on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we absolutely, let me say this, we knew the fight was on, but thanks to Jay having our back, it gave us time to build our muscle memory and get our fight game together.
But let's also be clear. Look, I don't believe, frankly, the citizens of the state want right to work. I think a lot of them don't even know what that is.
They don't.
And the ones that do don't want it.
That's correct.
90-10 doesn't want it. But I will say this, sometimes you benefit from your political adversaries being egotistical or stupid or arrogant. Listen, you definitely benefited from Eric Greitens' arrogance.
Eric Greitens did us the biggest favor in the world. Making that the first bill out allowed us the time to take our time and get the signatures.
And here's the thing, and again, I this is my opinion of the situation. I can't say that I spoke to him about this. I was never particularly close to the 17-month governor. But there was an RGA meeting, the Republican Governor Association. And to that group of people, becoming a right-to-work state would be a very positive thing, a very, very popular thing. He moved it up because he wanted to go to the RGA meeting. It is signing, and again, Holly Rader, person that was she was from Sykeston. Her view of the right to work is a little different than other folks. I remember everybody there, and they all wanted to sign this bill so that he could go to the RGA and this conference. It wasn't even in Missouri, some Washington thing. He could say, I did it, get a standing ovation, right? Had nothing to do with whether he thought right to work was good for this country or the state. Had to do with he wanted to go wave this around. So he goes and waves it around, and I did not know. I didn't know you could do a citizen's veto. I'd never even heard of that. And I was covering politics full time for several years then. I remember Ryan Burke. He's like, he screwed up. And I'm like, well, why? How? I think he goes,
It gave us enough time.
yeah. Give me the the machinery around that?
So we knew inside our circle, and that circle of 7, we knew that we could beat this, and we knew we could beat it easily. Not easily, but we knew we could beat it handily. We'd been
At a vote of the public.
At a vote of the public. We'd been message testing and talking to rural Missouri in particular for, at that point in time, 5 years. So we knew that if we got the ballots, the signatures for the ballot to refer it, that we'd be okay. We also knew, well, we thought it would be extremely expensive because at that point in time, with Greitens, the 17-month governor in office, that was going to be a money machine. Well, if you recall, that was about the same point in time that he started having some political problems and his finances were drawing up. He became more self-absorbed.
But he did it in the first year, right?
Yes.
So he gave you the way the law works is it's on hold till the next general election, right? So you have the same time to collect the signatures. But if he would have, I mean, if you were smart, right? If he rewind this,
and
you really believed in right to work,
if I was Eric Greitens and I wanted to pass right to work,
and you believed it was the right thing for the state, and you thought this is an important thing to do,
I'd have done it my second year in office
and signed it on the last day
of session, and it'd have been all right. So you've got
you wouldn't have signed it till the last day. You could sign it. A bill, I mean, just because into the session, you have till the end of June to sign this legislation.
And now you have a month to gather signatures, whatever it is.
If you'd have really cared and thought it was the right policy, you would have been strategic.
No, he did us a favor. And by the time we were getting into that cycle, the money had dried up on the other side. I will tell you that labor in the state believed in the fight. Labor across the country did not. So you know.
Well, this had worked in Ohio, right? A similar thing had happened in Ohio. Is it?
Yeah.
Bert told me, I think, Ohio, right?
Yeah.
So why didn't they believe that Missouri would follow the Ohio course?
Why did they think it would?
Why did they think it wouldn't? If they didn't, why didn't they believe in Missouri?
The Ohio one was just public, if I'm not mistaken, not right to work. And I think they were able to play on the first responders there.
Okay.
More than here. Okay. If you remember, Michigan got right to work.
Mm-hmm.
So and that happened because
why did that happen? I don't follow Michigan politics.
So what happened there was they believed that they needed to draw a line in the sand and embed it in their Constitution. And the UAW led that. UAW is huge in Michigan, as you would think. They didn't get buy-in from the rest of the labor community. They took the fight themselves. Some other labor people jumped in, but it wasn't a united front. When the constitutional amendment did not pass, because they had gone Republican there, we can pass this because we still have the people have our back. We were better than the Constitution. When it didn't pass, the Republican legislature took it as a mandate from the people to pass right to work. So they passed it through the legislature. D.C. saw that crack in the wall that if Michigan goes, Wisconsin had already gone, Missouri's done. There's no way you're going to stop it in Missouri. They basically, heck, my international president told me, I'm not afraid of right to work, Dave. I grew up in Arkansas, which is where he came from. But to his credit, he wrote a check. He says, you believe in it that much, you fought that long for it. He gave $1 million. Hell, I got $1 million from USCW locals across the country to give here. But the National AFL and everybody else, they were not on board until they knew it was done. Until they knew, Trumka, for all the good he did for labor, he wanted nothing to do with this fight until it was over. He came in at the end and gave his victory tour, and I asked him, where's your check? Will you match mine? I just run a small local here in the state. And he said, sure, what'd you write? I said, I wrote $1 million check. Where's yours? How can I get a hold of that $1 million check? He said, we can't do that. So you can do that if you want. I said, this speech that you just gave, that's not going to create a freaking vote. No. You talk to a room full of freaking labor people.
Probably hurt you. Yeah.
Well, you talk to labor people. How are they voting anyway? They're at a freaking rally against right to work. You had them all already. So you feel good about what you did. If you want to feel good,
it probably took time away from the actual effort on the ground to go have people come and watch the thing.
Our dear friend Mike Lewis was in the background saying, please don't do this to my boss in front of me, Dave.
So, you were downtown, right, for the victory? The election watch party, I should say.
Yes.
But I mean, let's be honest. It was a by the time the vote happened, nobody was nervous the night before the election. Right?
No.
The other side was in shambles.
The other side was in shambles. I will say, for everything that I've tried to teach myself over the years, and I've seen this with campaign after campaign, and you have too. But when you're one of the driving people on that ship, it's hard not to. I told myself that if I knew we had it won, we wouldn't spend every dime we had. And the reason was, Scott, I truly believe that it's still being talked about in Missouri because there's never been a repercussion for it. If you're a Republican and you introduce it and you continue to win, what difference does it make? If we were able to take out a couple of the people that were supporting it on the merits that they supported it, I think the likelihood of them reintroducing it diminishes in time. But we've never done that.
So the stories I remember is by the time the vote happened, Eric Grimes had already quit. The new governor came to St. Louis, Mike Parson, who frankly came in also. I'm not sure he beats Russ Carnahan without Trump. Parson stands up and gives a speech in St. Louis in front of the business community, which now includes the labor community also, and says the people have spoken. I think Mike Parson was. I bet you anything in the world, Mike Parson voted for right to work.
Oh,
he was
sure.
About.
Yeah,
I'm sure publicly he was for it. I don't really remember, but when he went in and said, because it was an overwhelming vote.
Yeah.
How did you, when you were on the stage? I remember the photographs of you on the stage that night. When you're on the stage that night, did you think about being at that rally in '78?
I did.
Yeah,
I did. I usually got chills again in my back. Yeah. You talked about the picture with Bob Kelly, and I have that of him on the front page of the Post-Dispatch, and I remember thinking, I did it. I got to that level. I mean, because Bob Kelly's a legend.
Yeah.
And it's like I actually got to that level in my career, which I never thought I would have done, because I was but I was a driving force in the fight. And I know that I did something very good for all the workers of Missouri, whether you're union or not. Statistically, it's not even close. Right-to-work state workers are not as well off as closed state workers. That's just a fact. So I know in my heart that my efforts helped every worker in Missouri. Yeah.
Let me ask you, let's talk about a little bit of word association with some people. Jay Nixon.
Labor friendly. I mean, what else can you say?
Dance with who brought him, right?
Yeah.
Talk about Mike Kelly.
Wow.
We've been talking about it. Tell folks who Mike Kelly is.
So Mike Kelly is the son of the late Bob Kelly. Grew up, and I remember Mike Kelly being waist high to me at union meetings. Yeah.
He's grown.
He has grown, because now I think I'm about waist high to him. He runs a political consulting firm, does an unbelievable job of advocating for workers and labor, and yet not alienating the business side of things.
Yeah.
He's a dear friend of mine. He's been a very good mentor of mine over time.
Jeff Abusi.
Great building trades leader. He put them on the stage.
Yeah, he birthed a real. He was at the tip of that spear of a real, not just a defensive part of labor. I really think Jeff, and this is just my opinion, kind of standing from the sidelines, but I feel like Jeff took labor from almost an adversarial part to mainstream.
I was just almost going to say the same thing. He finally moved them to being partners for growth, rather than adversaries to growth. And if business and labor can figure out how to work together, we're both going to be a hell of a lot better off.
Yeah, I really view Jeb as a central piece of that.
Yeah.
Talk about Mike Lewis.
Best AFO president that I've ever had the honor of knowing, and my dearest friend in the world, by the way. He's one of my 6. I'm one of his.
I love the fact, I always loved how Mike Lewis, who I consider a dear friend of mine as well. Whenever I'd have a good day, I'd get an encouraging text from Mike. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you'd see him if you're like, I'm struggling with this and that, he was an encouraging person. I feel like Mike Lewis was so effective because he raised up people around him. If you were around Mike Lewis, he was part of raising you up.
Yeah. I'm not going to mention names, but we can talk off camera. But there are several past labor people that despised the AFL and despised Mike Lewis, and in time, he won every one of those over. Every single person that was like, he's a no good bastard. AFL is no good. Every one of them to a T. It's like he did a great job. He was a great AFL leader. I take some credit for that. I was instrumental in pushing him. He didn't want to go there when I wanted him to, but it was time, Mike. The state AFL needed a new leader. We needed to change guards. And I said, "You're it." And he said, "But the guy that you're saying has to go is the guy that put me there." I said, "That's why you don't have to do it. It'll take care of itself." Surpassed my expectations. Just continued to grow on the job. You think about what he worked against. I mean, this was not a friend of labor legislature.
I know, it was so interesting to me. Missouri was such a pro-labor state. He came there for the tough times.
Yeah.
And left with the ship intact.
Yeah.
Gina Walsh.
Fierce lady in labor. I mean, what a tenacious lady she is.
That Irish charm about it too, but sharp.
Oh, extremely sharp.
Victor Callahan.
Brilliant.
God, he is, isn't he?
Just scary smart.
Yeah.
Scary smart.
Tom Dempsey.
An admirable individual from the other side of the aisle.
Yeah.
Couldn't be elected today.
Chris Koster.
What a loss. What a loss that he wasn't allowed to achieve what he could have achieved in life.
For the whole state, yeah. I'm with you. We'll talk about some folks today. Jake Hummel.
Jake is growing so much into that role. I know Jake in his younger days when he is known to be a little bit of a play baby, and he I think
I'm gonna call him that. That's
you can call him that. But wow, is he rounding into a great leader? Mike and I have talked about that several times, and I think we're both just so happy with where he's at and where the sky is for him. I hope he doesn't burn himself out, because that's a tough job, and he's a young man.
It is a tough job.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
I think that's a tougher job than being a local union president. I stand for election by my entire membership every 3 years. They have to get elected by leaders like me. It's harder to keep people like me happy than my members.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting. Talk about the new Secretary Treasurer, Ryan McKenna, somebody you know very well.
A dear friend will have a bond for life over an adversary attacking a friend. Wasn't even a friend of mine at that point in time, but attacked a good labor Democrat, and I had his back, and we've been hand in hand ever since then.
And the fact you're willing to admit that publicly says a lot about you.
Yeah, that's well. You said you're going to cut and splice on some of this?
We'll take care of you. Yeah, we don't want to publicly shame you. Give me a couple other people that I'm not thinking of right now.
Bob Suter.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Bob did a very good job, and when you look back at what he did and when he did it, I have more respect for it the longer out. He had to replace Bob Kelly. I would never want to replace Bob Kelly.
I don't want to put number one of besmirch anyone, but I do think since he's left, he's missed.
Oh, greatly.
And Bob Suter, I think, is truly a person that when he came in, because if he had to replace, it was tough. But since he's left, I think his esteem has only raised exponentially.
Absolutely. And let me say, even prior to what we're talking about, it was raised.
Mm-hmm.
I think when he got out of office, you were able to sit back and reflect on how much he had to learn, how he had to navigate replacing a legend. It's not easy to replace him.
Sure, absolutely.
So Bob's a better leader than he was given credit for. How's that?
Before we're done, I got one more topic I want to touch on here. First of all, talk about your decision to leave and retire.
The day-to-day was starting to get to me. I'm a person that even to the very end, I was probably working about 70 hours a week. That didn't bother me. In fact, I thrive on that. But dealing with personnel issues and staffing issues is just getting up every day and going to the office. I didn't like it. I have to be honest with you. I miss it more than I thought.
Grind, though, isn't it?
It's a grind.
It's more of a grind than that young Dave Cook that first ran, put his name out, probably thought it was.
Oh, yeah. If you do the job right.
Yeah.
If you do the job right. You know, I want to say the one thing I hope never happens is I hope I don't lose my relevance. Let me say that. You've seen labor leaders retire and lose their relevance, and there's not a lot of them that keep their relevance after they've been off this job for a couple of years.
Labor has changed. Everything changes.
Yeah.
Labor has developed, I don't want to say two camps, but from my observation, you have a more progressive wing, and you have a trade, maybe less progressive. I always thought you took UFCW to stand in the gap to hold those two things together. I think a right-to-work victory might have happened, but I think that stage had a lot more diverse group of people on it because of Dave Cook and UFCW.
Thank you. I don't disagree with you. I think I was able to communicate with everybody in labor equally. And, you know, one reason for that, Scott, and I said this jokingly, but it's like, I never got into this to make friends. You don't have to like me, but I want you to respect me when we're done talking.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as I could take and talk to that super progressive that I may not agree with everything on, and at the end of the conversation, they respect me and respect what I had to say, I'm good with that. That building trades person that we may not align on something, as long as they respected me at the end of the day. And I think that's one reason. I wasn't trying to go to war. I want to be clear. But I wasn't trying to build a bunch of friends. I've got 6 people to carry me when my day comes, right?
Yeah.
I've got enough. But I think my personality helped open the doors to the building trades. And that helped me build those relationships with the Jeff Abusis, the Johns, everybody up and down the list. I think the sector I came out of opened those conversations to me with the more progressive side. I'll be honest. I mean, I'm an old white guy. I probably am easier to have a conversation with for the building trades than for the progressive side. I mean, even today. But I also knew the importance of everybody being able to be in a room and a line.
Yeah. Stronger together, right? Kind of the basis of union.
We are.
Tell folks about your successor.
Laura Kelly. I hired her. I put her on my executive board. She was somebody else on staff made her a shopster, and I saw her. I put her on my executive board. I watched her develop there. I hired her. She has a passion and a fire that Dave Cook had 30 years ago. You can feel that passion.
Pardon me? You can feel that passion when you talk to her.
Yeah. I went to her 2 years ago plus, and said I'm leaving, and it's your time. I don't have somebody I think that's better suited. I think that most parts of the job can be taught. I don't think you can teach passion.
Yeah.
You have to have passion.
You can feel that when you talk to her.
Yeah. So I mentored her for 2 years. The time will tell where she goes with her career. I think she's in a position to do great things. I wish her nothing but the best in the world, because the best for her is the best for my local 6x5 family. I don't envy her because I have to be honest, especially when I walk out and I get a phone call like this or I get some other opportunities. I'm not sure I'd want to be the person to replace Dave Cook.
Sure. That's tough.
You know, I take a lot of oxygen in a room.
Give me the last thing, and I know you've been generous with your time. You give us more time than we've been asked for. Give me a piece of advice to someone who's that young Dave Cook who is working and thinks, I'd like to serve my fellow folks in the union. Give a piece of advice to a guy that made it to the top, that maybe looks at Dave Cook and thinks, I'd like to be that guy.
I would say get to know your union leadership, introduce yourself to them, make yourself known. You don't have to be a thorn in the side. That's the route I took, but get involved with them and talk to them. Make sure it's what you want to do. Because quite honestly, I think a lot of times I've seen people say this is what they want to do. And once they get a little taste for it, it's like, that's not really what I want to do. I've hired a lot of people that they quit pretty quickly. So, but go up to your union leader, go up to your union rep, introduce yourself, ask them what they can do as a person to help the organization.
Dave Cook, want to end with one of these?
I'd love to end up with one of these, Scott.
48 years, right?
48 years.
Congratulations on your success. Great retirement.
Thank you so much for the time.
That is one of the most enjoyable This Week in Missouri Politics I've ever done. Dave Cook, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate all of you. We'll see you next week here on This Week in Missouri Politics.